Alright, look you lot, I need a second opinion here, right? Because I just had a conversation with a friend of mine, because I'm printing some Terminators. Kind of. They're not actually Terminators, right? I'm not doing the sort of IP infringement thing. Kind of. They're called Exterminators. And the thing is, I really like them, and I'm printing some right now. They're going on. Literally over there, they're going on. And I sent this to a friend, and I was like, I'm looking forward to painting these. I feel like some absolute filth could be achieved with these miniatures. You could do some mad weathering, really chipped, like nasty looking armour. I'm really looking forward to it. And I sent them over, and they said, and I quote, "What the fuck is this?" Now, I feel like that is somewhat harsh, and I feel like that's especially harsh because, for me, these are brilliant. But I want a second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinion, however many opinions that I end up getting due to this video. Look, this is what they are, right? These are the Exterminators from Sedeval? Alright, let me check. Let's just find out. Sedeval, I was close enough. And, yes, it could be argued that in some ways the proportions are not quite what you'd expect. Right? They've got girth. They've got extreme girth. I would suggest that they have more girth than a good chunk of any other Terminator-style model that I've ever seen. Outside of maybe, the newer ones? Like, outside of the Saturnine ones, I think these are probably the chunkiest that are around. And, obviously, they're not actually Terminators. They're Exterminators. There's inspiration, but it's not a direct rip, so back off, Games Workshop, alright? Because I like these, and I want more of them, and that won't happen if you get all trigger happy, so don't. But I think these look great. They're extremely chunky. The shape of them is oddly pleasing. You could argue that there's maybe a little bit of like the Fifth Element about them, but I think that's reductive. I don't think they're that Fifth Element. I think this is almost like a not hyper-realistic version of what a transhuman warrior from the future might be. Do you like the way I'm trying to cover my bases? Do you like the way I'm trying to specifically make it so that it doesn't seem like it's 40k, even though there's things that are clearly inspired by? I just think these look fantastic. Now, what I'm wondering is, what do you lot reckon? Because this is one of the coolest little discoveries that I've had recently. And you can tell by the fact that the button is download and it's blue. I've already bought them, I'm already printing them. I think this is a very, very fun take on your kind of Space Marine look, especially your more heavily armoured lads. The number of rivets is very, very pleasing. I really like the combination of shield and miscellaneous futuristic double-barreled gun. The shoulder pads are a very fun shape. Now, admittedly, I will say that potentially these struggle with the same issue that Terminators have, which of course is the fact that the armour doesn't really work when it comes to just human physiology. Like, the arms are in a weird position compared to where they would be in a normal size suit of armour. There is a little bit of that going on. I'm not going to suggest that the issue has been fixed with these, because I don't think it has. But then again, you know, I've been willing to overlook that for however long when it comes to your Games Workshop Terminators, so why I would complain about that here seems a bit daft, really. Admittedly, when it comes to GW's track record with Terminators, some of them had that issue more than others. There have been a few glaring examples of, what the hell is this? But I don't know, there's something about it. There is something about it that just works. At least for me, obviously. For some reason, to me, this makes sense when it comes to it being a design. It doesn't look like it's particularly spry or manoeuvrable, but it does look like a walking tank. Like a proper walking tank. The armour looks super, super thick. I like the sort of multi-layered aspect that's going on across the chest. That's very fun. The shoulders, again, very silly, very over the top. But in the context of this is something that is supposed to walk down a corridor, have to be a big corridor, admittedly, or across a battlefield, just soaking up fire without ever actually getting injured or killed, that makes sense to me. I feel like the shape makes sense to some degree. The fact that the weak spot in terms of where the head is this really small aperture, I really like that as well. It feels like it's super protected, and of course the head is helmeted as well. I believe there's options to not have a helmet, but no. Things like the way the greaves have been sort of cut out to make space for the feet, but they still go quite far down on either side. It feels like there's been a lot of, like, minimising weak spots, which in a way adds to the chunky nature of it because it's trying to get rid of anywhere that could potentially be exploited from the front or the side, given that that's the direction that you assume people are going to be shooting at them from for the most part. Some of the variants for the legs and stuff, where there's like a bunch of these bonding studs, that looks absolutely fantastic, absolutely quality. Top-mounted weapons as well. I mean, yes, that is arguably too much weapon. But is there really such a thing as too much weapon anyway? Also, I just want to point out the Giganto Fist and Claw options are absolutely solid. That is genuinely terrifying. Like, that's a terrifying piece of equipment. That looks absolutely horrendous. It's also kind of fun and interesting in the way that it doesn't properly mimic a hand. You've got 3 claws at the top, 2 at the bottom. That's a fun little change. I say fun because it looks awful. But that's a fun little change that just makes it a bit extra scary. I don't know, there's something about these that just absolutely screams implacable walking tank that you borderline cannot get rid of without resorting to the kind of guns that you have to put on an actual tank, you know? I love them, I think they're fantastic, but yeah, my mate was like, absolutely not, I'm not having this, which I think is a bit harsh, I think it's a bit unfair. But I want to know what you think. Let me know what you think of these, because I really like them. And I want to know if I'm losing my mind, whether I've just been absolutely blinded by girth. That's a very weird sentence. Let's not ever say that again. Just let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you for the next one.